Counterattack. It's a very dangerous, difficult action to do correctly in foil because of priority, but it is a very effective tool to have in a tournament. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be looking at how the counterattack works, and we'll be exploring a few counterattacks that you can actually do in foil. One thing to note though, counterattacks are essentially a gamble. If your opponent is able to finish their action and hit you, your counterattack is not going to count. So it's very important that you make the counterattack at the right time. For this reason, counterattacks depend heavily upon timing and distance. If either one of these is off, the counterattack will not be effective. Let's get started. For this video, we are going to be looking at two kinds of counterattacks. The first one's going to be called a stop hit, and the second one is going to be a closing counterattack. There are going to be a few variations that we'll explore in these counterattacks, but for this video, those are going to be the two that we're going to be spending our time on. Let's have a look at those. Before we get started, let's make sure that you are in the proper on guard. For these counterattacks, make sure you're standing in a deep on guard like we learned in our dynamic foil footwork video. Make sure your feet are wide apart so that you are more stable. This is so that you can be a little bit more alert and more responsive in your counterattacks. Once you're in this position, we'll get started. The first counterattack we're going to be looking at is the stop hit. Now I'm going to show you a bad stop hit and a good stop hit so you know what to avoid and what to do properly. Now, the concept behind a stop hit is timing and distance. Timing of the attack when your opponent is closing in so that you can extend your arm in a perfect line, you hit them, and then the immediate retreat afterwards. If you make a stop hit and you stay where you are, you're going to get hit, you won't get the point. So it's very important that you do both the hit and the retreat. Now, let's have a look at a bad stop hit. As you can see, I've retreated before I finished extending my arm, so I'm too far away, I can't hit. Versus an effective stop hit where I extend and then retreat. You will notice that in an effective stop hit, you are making contact with the target first and then immediately pushing. When you push, it is your front foot that's propelling you back. So when you hit, you immediately push, lift with your back foot, and then you land. For the stop hit exercise, I want you to do a stop hit, repeat for 30 seconds. Our second counterattack we're going to be looking at is the closing counterattack. This is where you extend your arm forward into a continuous line, but when you hit the target, you're closing out in the line you expect your opponent to be hitting you in. So we're going to do this with the closing in 4 as a demonstration. So you hit, and as you can see, the arm and the blade are flexing out into the line of 4, where I hope to block the hit. Close that line, and you return to on guard. You can do this similarly for the other 3 lines, but there are other variations to this. The other variation is the step-in closing. So we're again going to close in 4, and you're standing on guard. As you can see, I step in, the arm and the blade are closing that line. This is a little bit more effective than the first one because I've closed distance, gives me the chance to extend my arm out further and shorten the distance, thereby reducing the timing they need to finish the attack. Now the third variation is going to be the lunge in closing. So if you're standing on guard, again, closing in 4, you're going to lunge and close, and then return back to on guard. Now that we've seen how that works, let's talk about our exercises. For our first closing counterattack exercise, we're going to be focusing on all 4 lines, closing once in each, rotating through for 30 seconds. Let's see what that's going to look like. For our second closing counterattack exercise, we're going to do the same thing as the first one, but we're doing it with a step in. Let's get started. For our third and final closing counterattack exercise, we're going to be doing it as a lunge. We're going to counterattack each line, and we're going to do this rotating for a total of 30 seconds. Let's see what that's looking like. Make sure you continue these exercises until you feel comfortable with the counterattack actions. And remember, counterattacks have no priority. Everything about them is about avoiding being hit while hitting your opponent. So remember, this is not a tool to rely on. This is a tool to resort to when timing and distance are both working together. Good luck. Drilling all the day. First counterattack, we're good. That is a loud bird. Oh, I missed. Gonna step in. Oh, bad bend. We're going to make a stop. Sorry, not a stop hit. Close. Oh, the new shoes are not broken in. Get on the blister.